Hey guys, this is Hell Hades. This is a Raid Shadow Legends video. And guys, today I am joined by Saph from HH Gaming. Saph, how you doing?
Not bad, not bad. It's an exciting week. We've got new updates, new features, new systems, and a new boss. I'm really excited.
Yeah. I mean, since I come back from holiday, there has been so much to talk about. We've had Ultimate Death Knight come in. We've got this new boss, this new kind of mechanic system going on, the Altar of Souls. Yeah, I mean, before we get into today's video, how are you feeling about this kind of new content that's dropping in Raid?
I really, really like it. So I've seen a few people trying to cheese the boss and do lots of different things. I hope we get some adjustments and fixes, because I hate a cheese strategy personally, but I like the fact we've got new dungeons requiring us to build new teams, use champions we may not have thought about. The awakening system looks really cool. I'm a bit on the fence as to how quickly we'll be able to actually interact with it, depending on how quickly we can get the souls. But some of those blessings look extremely powerful and look extremely fun. And I'm glad that we're still seeing lots of like different ways to approach the game. And I do think these blessings are designed to shake up the arena meta a little bit and prepare basically for next year's, changes to the PvP, which I think will be really good as well. So it's good to see new stuff, fresh stuff all the time coming in. For
sure. Look, so I guess for today's video, we're going to talk about champions that have had a bit of a value surge with this Iron Twins Fortress coming in. And we're going to talk about some of the kind of top line mechanics around how you can go about trying to build teams to beat this boss. And then we'll go into some of those champions to help you do it. I know, Saph, you've been writing on the hellhades.com website.
I have.
Go check it out, guys. Basically a full guide, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, summarizing, with a lot of wall of text, because the skills are extremely long, all of the abilities that the boss does, and obviously then going in and breaking down, trying to break all of that noise and nonsense down into what do you need to bring to beat this boss? What are the key components? Which I think is what we're going to talk about today, really, is like almost like the top 3 things you need to do to beat the boss.
Yeah. And I liked it. So definitely go and check out this article in full, because you'll get probably a bigger breakdown of what the boss is doing and how to combat that. And then we'll go on this video to talk about some champions and their abilities and why they're good. I do like this kind of opening line though. It's basically a combo of the Griffin from Doom Tower meets Ice Golem. Yeah,
exactly. Because if you think that Celestial Griffin buff has, where every time he does a bit of damage, he gets a feather stack, and you get to that point where it's almost like the old-fashioned raiding enrage mechanic. You can't just sit there forever waiting for it to die. You've got to
raid boss enrages and wipes the whole raid with a one shot.
We've all been there, exactly. And that's that kind of mechanic with obviously the Ice Golem passive, where
and I'd say that the big difference between the Ice Golem passive and this one is this boss cleans all of his debuffs away when he does that kind of passive smack.
Yeah,
which is quite interesting. So you can't just rely on one set of debuffs to do it and then the boss is going to go down. Actually, you need to replenish after those different slams, right?
Yeah, I think that's going to be the trickiest bit for most people to sort of keep a track of, is a bit like Hydra, where you need to keep a track of things like the sort of consumption timer and when the boss's turn meter is going to go, so you can maximize your efforts. In this one, it's going to be the same thing, where you got to keep an eye on how close you are to those percentages. In an ideal world, I wish they would improve the UI so you could actually kind of see the breakpoints, so you can quite clearly see how close you are. Yeah. But not thinking okay, well, he's going to maybe proc that and then I'm going to lose my debuffs. If you can't reapply some of your debuffs, it could result in your team failing and obviously wasting energy. This is going to cost a lot more energy.
So the keys don't get lost if you lose a round, but the energy does get lost. So you definitely don't want to be failing over and over on this boss. But I guess let's get into this then. So for me, in the test server, I've been looking at a number of different things. Plus, I've been watching other creators around what they've been doing. And it feels like we've got some team comps or team ideas that make some sense. An unkillable team or a block damage team seems to make some sense. Enemy max HP still does a good job. Geomancer does a good job. We'll get onto that in a bit. Resistance builds seem to be something which makes some sense as well. Or like a high resistance reviver or revive on death type of champions, again, seem to have some sort of sense to them, because if someone dies, you lose all of those nasty debuffs. If you revive them, they come back and it's like a fresh start. So as long as you've got one person that can keep the team going, then that is actually a reasonable strat if you're struggling to get the damage away in a kind of good amount of time. So perhaps should we kick off with good damage dealers, and we kind of move through those different elements throughout the video, yeah?
Yeah.
Hit us off, Saph. Who's going to be the first one that we need to talk about for damage?
So I think the biggest caveat here is you're going to want to really focus on people who do burning, HP burn, poisons, and kind of enemy max HP. You don't really want multi-hitters. So obviously the first one that comes on the top of the list is probably Geomancer.
Yeah, we've already seen videos of this guy, right?
He is a monster. Now, the clever thing that people are doing with Geomancer particularly is they are ignoring the effect. Obviously, the boss is a passive where if you don't put decreased speed on, he keeps getting turn meter for buffs. So people are accelerating that by essentially not putting decreased speed and then allowing the boss to take multiple turns by bringing multiple buffers to like speed up the proc rate of Geomancer's passive. And they're just abusing that with HP burn. Yeah. So you put the HP burn up, the boss attacks you, you reflect damage. You also do the HP burn damage at the same time as well. So you're doing like 50,000, I think it's capped at. But a pretty monstrous. The nice thing as well is that he also brings decreased accuracy on the A1. So even though you may not be running a resist team, if you wanted to run a resist team, you could also use him for that as well.
Yeah, even if you're not running him to do like the crazy fast runs, which we've seen, you can actually just run him in any team. He's probably the MVP in the game for this fight. Would you agree with that?
Oh, I don't know whether he's the MVP in the game for it, but I think he's probably one of the best ones.
He's definitely up there.
Certainly for I think he brings a lot to a team purely because of his damage reduction passives alongside the burning, alongside the A1. I don't know whether I would necessarily say like he's the best champion in the game for it, because I would imagine Theodore is just mental for it because of the activation effects. But certainly for being a survivor one, up there, 100%.
Yeah. So I'm going to come back to a champion then that always seems to pop up whenever new content drops, because of the way they've changed enemy max HP. And it makes me a bit sad because I used to love Septimus as like my favorite champion in the game. But basically they've capped any enemy max HP hit as like a maximum 10% damage that the boss can take. So when I was doing some testing, Armager just seems to come out as one of the best enemy max HP champions for this fight because it's on such a low cooldown. You can't turn me to control him. So his A1 actually becomes irrelevant, which means you don't even need any accuracy in his build. You just build him full damage and survivability and just keep prioritizing his A2. And when I looked at others, we're going to call out a couple of others in a minute, but when I looked at Septimus versus this guy, when I looked at Husk and what have you, it just felt like Armager becomes the go-to, which is a bit sad.
The only one that probably beats him now is that Acrizia, that new
new
one,
because
who's probably
get
my
most wanted champion.
Yeah, I'm sure we're gonna, we'll see some examples of that soon. I used Armager in Dragon 25 for that exact role. Put him in reflex, give him a blood shield, and he just pops big shields on himself all the time and just keeps going. So if you want to use him for damage, do the same thing. Build him in reflex, build him with a blood shield item if you've got it. Put him against the boss, and you'll just get huge self shields alongside it. He kind of replaces it with the A1, but it's still a monstrous A2.
Okay, talk us through the next one. Who's next on the list for damage?
So I think these ones, we can kind of all group them together with like a tiering list, and they're kind of like poison activators. We've got Theodore, which everyone probably knows about now because he's the recent one. He's probably the best poison activator purely because he places and extends.
What faction's Theodore in?
I think he's Night Rev, isn't he?
Oh, Night Rev, yeah. I thought he was an undead.
Gotta keep on top of all these now. So the nice thing about Theodore is, especially for this encounter and Ice Golem, his A2 and his A3 doesn't attack, which means you can't proc the passives with on-hit damage, even if you get unlucky with the breakpoints.
Right.
They're both non-damaging abilities. He places poisons, he places decreased speed, which is quite important for this encounter, and he also extends it and then activates the poison. And obviously activating means he actually forces the turn to tap and not explodes it like Xavier. It's a bit of a different...
Yeah.
If you did Xavier, you'd hit that 10% cap. You don't with Theodore. So I think Theodore is going to be the number one choice for people with that kind of poison activator. You also have Dark Kale, does exactly the same thing in terms of poison activation. He does have a really, really powerful passive for this boss, which I think will be mega important. If it's a poison, the boss can't crit you.
Yeah, sure. And he's only got 15% crit rate, isn't he, in his kit? Yeah. So that's basically 0 chance to crit.
Exactly. Also brings decreased attack, which would be really good. So he places the poisons, does decreased attack, and then he activates on the A1. He's just not as good as the others because it's not a guaranteed, and it kind of does a weird thing with HP burn as well. So if you're trying to do a combination of HP burn, I personally would prefer Tyre over him in this team. That's the third one that I wanted to list. Tyre is a champion that probably not many people know about, but
which faction's Tyre?
She's Shadowkin. She is like, I think, the 6th champion you get from the Doom
Yeah,
Tower.
so this is one of those ones for me. I haven't even got Dark Kale. I'm like that. Tyre.
Yeah.
Who is Tyre? Talk us through what she's going to do.
So what she's really good at, she's got an A1 decrease accuracy.
Yeah.
And then she places poisons on the A2. Now, her biggest flaw in Ice Golem is she's single target, so she can't actually kill the ads. But for this, it's great because not only does she place the poisons, she then activates any HP burn or poison effect on the boss on the A3. So that basically means if there's 10 poisons up, you get 10 procs of poison.
Just little proc of damage. Yeah.
Exactly. If there's 1 HP burn and 5 poisons, you get 1 proc of HP burn and 1 on all the poisons proc. So pair her with a secondary poisoner, decrease accuracy on the A1, which is what we're going to talk about, how important decrease accuracy is for this boss. She also has an accuracy aura as well. I think she's an MVP for this dungeon, personally.
Interesting.
I think she's...
It's not someone I would have looked at because I guess she's just not on my radar, but definitely, like you say, her kit totally fits it. Decrease accuracy, which is good for some of the teams we talked about. His stats, you need to be getting somewhere around a 700 resistance to start resisting like the higher level stuff.
Yeah, we're Balmul tier right now. When you get to stage 15, it's Balmul tier.
So decreased accuracy actually becomes pretty massive if you're trying to resist some of the nasty stuff that's coming at you. Yeah, cool. Okay, cool. And then I guess I'm going to throw into the mix of this group, even though I hate to talk about him, and I will say, I'm going to call this one out to Plarium if you ever watch this video. Please make your next guaranteed champion an exact copy of Ninja, but call him like Bango or someone else. Call him a different name, and perhaps don't let people that have got Ninja collect him. Give them someone else. But don't you feel like Ninja is going to be extremely strong for the same reason as the other champion you've spoken about there, with the activation abilities for burns on the A2. It's going to be nuts for it again.
Is the activation. That's the important word. If you take anything away from this video, is activation. Because if you activate an effect, it probably will bypass the Iron Twins passive like Ice Golem.
Yeah.
Theodore is so fast because he can just activate the poisons. You get through all the different HP barriers. You don't get the retaliation.
You don't get that retaliation hit and the reset type of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. I would imagine that's the way the twins are going to work. I obviously haven't had a chance to test it to know for sure, but I would imagine that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. Even if it doesn't, this is still an obscene amount of damage, isn't it? And he gets it back relatively quickly because of his A3. So,
and the good thing is you don't need to build damage.
Decent. No, you don't. You build him a bit like Geo. We didn't talk about it, but Geo can just build like a tank and he'd still get
100%.
The same amount of damage. Do the same with Ninja, really.
Yeah, because he's going to ramp up over time because he gets those like cooldown reductions. He also has that passive as well. Even some people who build Ninja for Clan Boss early on, you can put like 2,500 attack on him and you'll end up with like 4,000 attack or 5,000 attack because of his passive. So you don't necessarily need to build him super tanky. I build my Ninja personally with like 400 resist and I put him against all the Doom Tower bosses and he can solo half of it towards the end.
Yeah, so, for sure. Yeah.
100% Ninja is going to be in there as well as probably, I would imagine, probably the best HP burn activator. Obviously, there are others that can do it, but certainly him is the best.
There's one other kind of poisoner stroke nuker that I'm interested in your opinion, because I feel like Cavalax should be strong here, but perhaps not to the same level as we've seen with the others. So he instantly gives you a load of poisons, and poison is a good way to do damage against this boss, or a decent way. Yeah. And he's got an enemy max HP skill, but I don't know if he quite brings the same level of quality as some of the other damage dealers that we've just spoken about.
The only thing is he's going to suffer from the multi-hit. Obviously, the boss has a passive that reduces multi-hit damage. His A2 is not going to do anything for those extra hits. It's good you get poisons in addition. I think if you're bringing someone like a Tyre who doesn't necessarily have an insane amount of poisons, like Theodore probably can do it on his own, but someone like a Dark Kale or Venomage
someone
has
else
this
to bring
issue as
more
well.
Poisons, right?
Yeah, Venomage has this issue when you see her in Clan Boss. Like she can't really keep the poisons up on her own. She eats them too quickly. So he could be a secondary poisoner, 100%.
Yeah, with an enemy max HP skill.
Yeah, obviously making sure you manage when you activate that, because he will do quite a lot of damage. So you don't want to activate that at like 86% and then lose all your debuffs is what is the point.
Okay, and then the last one, a couple of other kind of enemy max HP champions. One which most people will have built out, because if they've got her, they're probably using her for
Cold Heart.
Yeah, anything in the game.
The actual nice thing about Cold Heart isn't the max HP, it's her A1 and A2. Not so much her A1, the A2.
Yeah,
sorry.
A2, yeah.
Decrease accuracy and poison. So you can basically support your poisoner with a Cold Heart. Someone like, again, Tyre as an example. I use her as an example in my head because I know I've used her a lot recently. But you can use someone like Cold Heart with a Tyre or Cold Heart with a Venom Mage or Cold Heart with a Dark Kale to kind of feed the damage to him that you'll need to do, because they won't be able to do it on their own.
And then obviously we've got the enemy max HP skill. We can't reduce turn meter, so it's not going to be as impactful as perhaps in other dungeons, but still it's a big hit. It's a 10% of the boss's health. And, that's a decent amount of damage to get away, as long as you pair it with some of these other mechanics that we're talking about. You probably want maybe 2 people in there for damage for most teams, and then 3 supporting acts, it feels like to me.
And the good thing about max HP being capped at 10% is you don't need as much crit damage as you did in the past. You can basically start putting more stat priority into defense and HP after that point.
Yeah. And I guess for me, the other enemy max HP champion that stands out as a bit of an MVP is Royal Guard, because you get the 10% damage, but also
decreased
we've got a decreased speed debuff, which for most comps is going to be essential. Yeah, we'll get onto that in a second, but for most comps, decreased speed needs to go on before you do anything else. Otherwise, the boss starts getting crazy turn meter as soon as you start buffing your team. And, unless you're running that Geomancer comp, you do not want this boss getting tons of turn meter stacking up quickly, because before you know it, you're getting wrecked. So this skill here, and actually I did a little bit of testing with him on the test server, his opener. Yeah, the AI actually prioritizes this ability over the enemy max HP skill, which is cool. Yeah.
That's cool. He also has a decreased defense on the A1, which is nice. He's such an all-round, that's the funny thing with High Elves. They have so few champions, but the ones they have, very
bangers.
They're bangers.
Yeah. Well, let's move on then. Let's talk about the kind of unkillable or block damage style champions that might do some good here. I guess we need to have a bit of a call out to Cold Brew.
Cold Brew, that's the first word that came into my head. Then give Cold Brew a shout out.
Yeah, he's done his thing.
Took him all of a day to get the video out there, and we're like, oh, we didn't really.
He's fully cheesed it.
The old Paragon.
I mean, I don't know if there's much to be said, really. It's a slow run, but it's doable as a solo build. Do you think they're gonna change this, fix this, adapt it?
I think they have to. In the past, Plarium tend to get involved with things if it completely disables the main sort of function of the boss. I think back to Doom Tower, where they started putting the turn meter caps on bosses because people realized they could just keep the turn meter down completely. And then the max HP, obviously they've put on things to stop people just one-shotting everything. So I think we're probably going to get something similar to what they've done in Clan Boss, where after you reach a certain number of Iron Brand stacks, you'll just have your ignore defense, unkillable block damage will just get ignored basically, or they'll just kill unkillable completely. One of the two.
Yeah, I actually, the first idea you said there, I think it's not a bad way to go if they're going to change it, because at least you've got time to, you can still use this type of champion.
It fits into that model of Enrage mechanic. You've got a window in which you can run an unkillable comp, so you've got to try and get there. But if you don't do it in time, then you die, which I think is reasonable, because then you're just forcing it. Where you put the number at is difficult. The other good thing about that then is you also have to take into account the way that it applies those Iron Brand stacks. So you can't just shove 5 champions in an unkillable team and hope for the best. You would have to do some clever strategic planning around which champion has more defense, more attack, so you get a balance in the Iron Brand stacks. So it requires you to build a team, which is what I always like to see.
Yeah, and also it does actually bring in the affinity thing, because at the moment, from what I'm seeing and what I've done in testing, affinity's playing a very small part here. And we thought it was going to play quite a big part at the moment. And they might change it. They might upscale some of the Iron Brand mechanics due to affinity, because it feels like any testing I'm seeing and comps I'm seeing at the moment, people they're ignoring the affinity thing.
I mean, there was a thought process that I certainly had, and a couple of other people I were talking with, where we thought, would it just be better just to have the weak hitting? Just put 5 strong affinity so the boss would weak hit you. Would that just be a better return and not worry about the extra stat gain? Because obviously the stat gain is whether it's not matched. It's not whether it's weak or strong. It's just whether it's not matched. So if you bring strong affinity in there, the boss will weak hit you, reduces your incoming damage. That was a thought as well. I personally would prepare for the eventuality that affinity will be in control, because if it's too easy farm, I'm sure
wanted it to be, isn't it? Yeah,
they're not going to leave their new content piece like that in a state where half of the mechanics are ignored, especially with the Paragon. I think that'll be the first thing we see, if we don't already see it implemented in this, as soon as after the boss gets released. So
yeah, and I guess let's just call out quickly just a couple of other people or champions that will do well here eventually. So Maneater, because 100%. We know the speeds, we know way turns happen in exactly the same way we do with Clan Boss. It won't be long before an unkillable team can be built with Man-Eater if it's not already been built. And then I've also been using on the test server, just the time I have tested, I've used Helicaf. There he is.
There he is.
As a kind of block damage champion, which works well. And for the same reason, the tower would work equally as well. So there's going to be plenty of tower not there.
He's Sacred Order. I know.
Yeah,
he looks like he's meant to be balanced, but he's not.
Yeah, I always mix that one up. Yeah, but there's going to be
there'll be an
unkillable
teams. 100%. If it doesn't already, Dead or Jedi's probably got one in the background somewhere. You might even be thinking about doing a calculator. I don't think my initial gut was basically saying I don't think it's like going to take enough time to warrant like having a full-on speed tune built like you would with Clan Boss. I think people are going to figure out how to farm this within 3 minutes.
It's going to be a bit easier. Yeah. I agree.
It's not worth really the investment. But if you're struggling, even just as you were saying, like just to throw in some block damage to reduce the incoming damage, not bad.
That's the way I used it actually. Rather than a kind of block damage team, I just had Helicaf in there that was a supporting act to
buying new time.
Yeah, others. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about some really good debuffers then for the fight. And we've already spoken that decreased speed, decreased accuracy are two of the kind of big ones to look for, right? So decreased speed stops the enemy boss taking loads of turns. Decreased accuracy allows you to build at least 1 or 2 resistance or a team of resistance champions to kind of stop getting that Iron Brand skill against you. So kick us off. Who would be your kind of number one go-to for this?
Well, we've got to talk about her, haven't we? The queen of all things, Lady Kimmy. She's just has so much in her kit. It's unbelievable. Obviously, it's a legendary, so that's obviously, not everyone's got her, but A3, decreased accuracy, decreased speed, perfect. That like 3-turn cooldown, 100% chance to place. You couldn't ask for much better other than it being a 2 for 2.
Yeah.
And then the A2, then you also get increased accuracy. Is it the other way around? Yeah. The increased accuracy is on the A3. So you get increased accuracy, increased speed for your team. Great. And then she does A2, decreased accuracy and decreased speed. So you're basically getting both the effects you need, because actually the boss is quite high resistance. So you're probably going to need increased accuracy as well. And also the decreased accuracy is almost important. If you run decreased accuracy, I think on stage 15, you'll end up with needing around about 355 resistance.
Yeah.
Which is about the same as all the other stage 25 kind of resistance levels without the debuff. So
which I know some people have been a bit upset about that because it was lower. They upped it whilst we were on the test server actually.
Okay.
And I actually feel like it was the right thing to do because I saw people with just 1 man in it, 2 man in it. It was way too easy. And I know some people will be upset with that because they want it to be easy so they can farm it. I think they've got it to a level now where it's very doable, but not just like an absolute cakewalk. So
if they get rid of the power of the cheese.
Yeah.
But yeah, Lady Kimmy 100%. The other one that comes to mind is sort of someone like Stag Knight would be a great option. Obviously not decreased accuracy, but decreased speed on an A1. Yeah. And he's also got that increased accuracy passive, which might help you out if you do get unlucky. It's not a really reliable passive, but it's a nice to have. But you do get that 3-turn 100% chance with the right mastery, decreased stack, decreased defense, the 2 primary ones you're probably going to want to have in this encounter.
And a lot of people, if they've got a Stag Knight, he's built out. So, it might just be you need to adapt some stats. You don't really need to build him for damage, which means you can build his accuracy up pretty damn high.
And his base stats are crazy for an epic. 107 speed and like 21,000 HP. Like he's not dying. He will stay alive. He does actually hit quite hard as well, believe it or not. With A1.
Yeah.
You just don't need to build him. Yeah, exactly.
And I guess, being one enemy, an A1 that does hit hard, pretty interesting. I'll call out one who we've all got. Everyone kind of, I guess, I don't know, puts this champion down or doesn't tend to use this champion, but she does actually just offer a lot in a lot of places. And, High Katoon, she's got the A1 with a reasonable chance to put decreased speed on. We've already said that's one of the most important debuffs to have in your team.
Yeah.
The A2 will obviously keep you moving quicker. She's not doing tons. And you would turn off our A3 completely because you can't push his turn meter back. But in terms of, do we have a decreased speed champion available if you don't have some of the OP ones? Well, I feel like High Katoon will just be a reasonable champion to bring in and do a job.
Yeah, it's probably like an emergency option. If you haven't got anything better than 30 days in and you're trying to get through those first stages, she'll do a job for you 100%. Early game, mid game.
Because the early stages are actually relatively reasonable stats.
Yeah.
I think they want this to be... I feel like they've gated this as not new end game content. Perhaps the blessings eventually will be, but the actual beating of the Iron Twins, I don't feel like it's new end game content. I feel like it's gated as almost like
mid to late.
There will be there'll be a mid game presence right the way through. My free to play right now will be able to do this dungeon right now easily.
Yeah,
at least to like stage 11, I think. So yeah, I think they've kind of got it to a reasonable balance where everyone can get involved. Okay, call us out a couple more good debuffers.
So probably the monstrous one that we recently had as a guaranteed champion, Nekmothar, King of Hydra, probably one of the best champions in the game.
Was his champion a guaranteed whilst I was on holiday?
He was a guaranteed sacred. Were you on holiday? You may have been on holiday. It was about a month ago now. It was about 6 weeks after when I thought we were going to get it, but he was a guaranteed 15 sacreds, and he is an absolute monster.
This makes me sad that I don't have this champion. Well, I didn't realize he was on a guaranteed. It must have been while I was away.
His main kit is this A3 here. So you basically get increased speed, the best, and 30% turn meter, and an extra turn. Like that is a 3-turn, 30% speed and 30% turn meter. That's really, really strong. There's not many champions that can do both of those. It's probably top 5 turn meter manipulation ability in the game, outside of Lysandra in the arena. You then get the A2 is decreased speed, and I think leech. On a 3-turn cooldown, 100%. So you get healing and you get the decreased speed. And then the A1, I think, is a 100% chance if there's any debuff at all.
Which, of course, there will be unless they've just done a reset. Yeah.
There you go, 75. And then he has this kind of annoying passive to some extent. If you're trying to speed to, and you wouldn't enjoy this passive because you can't control it unless you're in a Vizier. But anytime a debuff falls off, removed, see the boss could remove debuffs, he gets a burst of turn meter.
So if the boss removes like 8 debuffs because he's doing his passive, he'll just Necto would basically just get like a massive turn meter fill.
Gets about, so Hydra's a great one. When the Decay Head or whatever it's called cleanses all the debuffs, he just goes boof. Yeah, and then he's also got a speed aura in all battles. So
nice.
You throw that in. I run mine around about like 270 speed in Relentless, and he just I can basically get like 6 turns in Hydra at times, but he will be really good. And then the last one I think is a more accessible one here is Sylar,
who's already good in a lot of stuff, right? But damn, this is going to be one of her main areas, I think.
Decrease accuracy on the A2, 100% on a 3-turn cooldown. Perfect. A1 doesn't really do anything. Normally you'd run a stun set in any content, but we have got then a decreased speed on a 4-turn cooldown for 2 turns. Obviously the turn meter doesn't happen. So she's kind of like not the best option, but a pretty good option. Like you get 2 effects. The aura doesn't help, but the other 2 will be, I think, pretty good. So, again, a bit like Hiketoon, if you're struggling for options.
You're working your way into it and you need someone for these abilities. Because as we said, they're the 2 key abilities to land to just control the boss or to build into this sort of style of resistance start team.
Yeah, certainly for the safe and steady team, not the Geo team, not the unkillable team. The safe and steady team, if these 2 debuffs aren't up, you're in trouble. That's the first thing you need to solve. And I do want to do one special call out, and this champion's a favorite of yours. It's a favorite of many of ours. He's the savior of the arena. He is a dwarf, and he is a void rare, but he is absolutely insane for this encounter. And he is Kurzad Deepart.
Kurzad.
Good old savior of the arena.
The savior of the arena, yeah.
Savior. Why is he so good? A1. If he crits, decrease speed. 100%. All the time.
Oh, damn. Actually, I didn't realize that about his kit.
100% all the time. All you need is crit rates.
He's got such a low base defensive stats, actually.
HP is a problem.
You're right. This is an amazing A1.
But he also has increased accuracy on the A3.
Yeah. And a weak source drop defense. Yeah, I remember. So this is what I thought you were going to call out. Damn, he loves a book, this guy, doesn't he?
He loves a
book. Probably worth it. I mean, well, actually, is it worth it? Because the increased accuracy is happening anyway, and that's the main thing you're using him for.
You don't need books.
Decreased speed is happening anyway, as long as you crit. You don't care about that damage. Yeah, no, you don't need books on him at all. Although he looks like he's going to be a massive investment of your books, you don't need him at all.
Probably just 6-star him, get some masteries on him for like War Master, just to boost it up, or like the Resistance one if you're building a Resistance team. Because actually, to some extent, you may not want War Master because you don't want to proc those boundaries in that sense. Like that's how you build Ice Golem. You don't run War Master, you run anything other than damage. And as long as he crits, 100% decreased speed all the time. Brilliant.
Nice.
Accessible option.
Yeah. That's actually a cool tool out. I like that. Because actually, although people touted him as the arena god, we don't really see him used, do we, now?
No, exactly. I mean, the concept was right. It was just the rest of his kit was pretty rubbish. Now that you see like the power of Kimmy, Like you put Kimmy and Romantu together, it's like unstoppable in arena because of the increased accuracy buff. So
yeah.
the concept was right. I just think we were about 6 months too early for
Yeah,
the
he was just
savior
the
of the
first one
arena.
that could do it, wasn't he? Like,
Yes.
effectively, that was it.
Exactly.
Okay, well, let's talk about some reviving champions. So if you're going to go with a reviving team, and the way I would suggest building this, if you do it, is a high resistance reviver or a champion with revive on death that is solid. And there's one that just come to mind actually, which I'm going to throw in. Basically, the rest of your team can have lower resistance. Take that Iron Brand stack. Eventually, they will die, and then you've got to bring them back up, and then obviously get back into the fight.
Restart it, yeah.
So the one that's just come to mind that I hadn't considered before, and I've never built out, but she was a fusion champion, so a lot of people might have her. She does have a decreased speed A1, albeit it's not the best chance to land, but if you booked her, it's a 50%.
Yeah, and if you run revenge or counterattack in your team.
Yeah. And then she does have this kind of revive on death mechanic on the A2 with another good buff alongside it. Her A3 is incredibly weird.
Just turn that off.
Her passive is kind of weird too, but actually weird and quite cool.
I think it's the aura as well that makes her really strong, right? It's 24%.
Speed in battles. Massive base speed as well. Massive base stats. What do you think about this champion for the fight?
Oh, I didn't realize she was that fast. I thought it was only really Kimmy that was 115. Yeah, I mean, Mother Sibel is that weird champion that when she first came out, everyone's like, this is a trash champion, didn't do anything. And then bit by bit, they've added content where like Hydra comes out. Oh, Mother Sibel is actually quite good for this because the priority of debuffs has changed. You know, back in the past, it was literally decreased defense and weaken, and you forget everything else. Obviously, if you're in late game, early game, decreased attack. And now you're in a position where actually you need decreased accuracy, you need decreased speed. So these types of like fringe champions that were a bit like, not so important, actually just rise in priority now. So yeah, 100%. Great call out. She's probably the non-void version of Cardiel, right?
Yeah. That's
obviously the best in slot. If you had Cardiel, you probably run Cardiel because of his healing output and also his ability.
I do not have Cardiel. Where is he? He's a Sacred Order.
He's a Sacred Order. There he is.
Probably up there as one of my most wanted as well, actually. But yeah, Cardiel, similar. So he's got a full cleanse, but the cleanse will not help us for Iron Brand. Block debuffs will help us, so
it might help if you take the A1 debuffs, though. They are quite nasty. Decreased defense, decreased crit rate, weaken, decreased attack.
Potentially.
It will help. Ally attack. Just be careful about the passive, but otherwise it's really good. But it's really the thing about Cardiel that almost flies under the radars is healing. His healing output on that A1, because he just keeps attacking all the time, is mental. It's really strong. It's a really strong heal because even though it only sounds like 7.5%, you can get counterattacks with it. You get him doing it all the time. Yeah. Anytime someone does an attack, you can just join the attack. So you're getting all this. He's a bit like Siffy's A1. People don't realize how much healing she does, and it's just the same thing.
Damn, nice.
So yeah, he's probably like the preferred option for that kind of revive on death. And you could probably throw in Shamrock as an option. Doesn't he though? Is Shamrock the one that does revive on death? I know he's conditional, isn't he though?
He's
blind. He's an Ogren, isn't he?
What is he? Yeah, Shamrock.
Yeah. Kind of sad. I know all these factions off the top of my head.
I kind of just forget. Places revive on death.
The 3-turn cooldown.
Yeah, it's conditional. Yeah, you're right. And there'll be others as well. And actually, he's got a good decreased speed as well. Yeah, actually, he could end up being pretty damn solid in that role. It's basically the same as Mother Sibel, but in a slightly different kind of makeup, right?
Yeah, a bit more awkward to use. You know, but it's one of those things that you think, oh, well, I haven't really got a reviver. Have I got a revive on death? Shamrock could fit that role. But you're probably going to want to bring a reviver anyway, right? Because a reviver is going to be just on demand. You get what you need when you need it.
Yeah. And just while we're talking, I'm thinking one other champion that basically is the same as this. Revive on death, decreased speed.
And attack.
And attack at the same time, yeah. But I'm just thinking like in terms of basically Mother Sibel again, or Shamrock again, as maybe the budget version.
Light Spawn is a classic. Can we get a buff on him just to bring those cooldowns to like 2022?
Yeah.
Like 3 turns all right, but that 4 turns
could do a turn less.
It just feels that 1 turn too many.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's talk about some of the more common revivers then that perhaps we're going to see. Perhaps let's group a few of these together because they're similar, I think.
Yeah. Start with the OP one, Duchess. Every time. Yeah. Every new piece of content, what's the first champion? Somewhere in a dark corner, poor old Senti is crying in his, crying in his
people
corner.
say to me, and I stream quite a bit, and people say to me, Duchess, is it the champion you'd want the most? The only trouble with Duchess is she slows you down in most content. Like, she is the most dependable, reviving champion. She'll keep your team alive for days. but she does slow runs down. And that's what this type of team would be. It would be a slower version, but it might be that most people need to do this. So Duchess, for sure. Obscene. Obscene as well because of her passive.
Yeah.
Going to take 15% less damage from bosses. She's also got the block debuffs. So yeah, she's going to be mental.
I mean, it's the veil damage reduction as well. People forget Veil's got a 15% damage reduction in it. So you're getting like the passive because the boss is mostly AoE plus the veil. So you're getting lots of damage reduction as well as block debuff. So you can stop that A1 debuffs if you need to.
Yeah. And then perhaps let's throw a couple in here. So we've got Godseeker, who's going to be good for this as a reviver. But I particularly like the passive of the revive on death as well. So you don't kind of burn your revive straight away. You're actually just going to pick up. If one person just drops, it's like, bam, we'll pick them straight back up. And that's on a reasonable cooldown for this fight, I think. That
10%
person,
more healing.
Yeah, that person is going to be back without the Iron Brand stack. So they're going to be relatively easy to keep alive for a while. And then perhaps you're going to get this cooldown back on this fight, I think, if you're going to use this style of team. So
I think so. The thing with Godseeker is, of course, she also resets the skills.
Yes, yeah, fair point, yeah. So if it is your like nuker, like your enemy max HP type of champion, then for sure you can just kind of get them back in the fight and their key abilities back.
Or if you're running like a double revive with, say, like an AoE revive, obviously you can like keep her alive, revive the reviver, then everyone else can get revived because you reset the revive ability. So it's quite useful and quite niche.
Yeah, who else would you kind of throw into this group?
Probably Asala the Mourner. She's a bit funky to run on auto. That's really why her priority, you don't see an awful lot of her. Because she is like the revives we're getting lately. Mighty Uko's got a similar thing where they'll revive even if you don't need to revive because it has extra abilities and extra effects on it. The cooldowns are a little bit long, and she loves a book. We've also got Mighty Uko as an honorable mention. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. You just mentioned her, and I thought we should throw it up actually because she's going to be he's going to be the fusion this week.
Really good for this encounter. Probably like top 20 because you get decreased attack A1, decreased accuracy. The block burst doesn't really matter because he's not buffing, but the decreased accuracy with decreased attack and increased speed for your team with a backup revive. And it's the aura. People don't forget the aura is really strong, especially when you think that you might get an awakened champion and that aura can be boosted by the blessing. I haven't really talked about blessings at all, but this could have an impact in these bosses as well. With Asala, she loves a book, but she does bring decrease attack and increase attack for your team, and she has that revive when you need it. And I think is there over Doom Tower, isn't it? I hate Doom Tower.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
But
she's definitely a good option, I think.
Absolutely, she's like a sort of an A tier reviver, just because it's not necessarily the best buffs in the world, but it's solid.
Yeah, I mean, would you even call out someone like I guess someone we talked about a bit, Reliquary Tender, as like a budget? Can revive someone, for like a lower level stuff. Got a bit of a cleanse, bit of a heal. Obviously, not a brilliant champion. Well, she is a good champion for a rarity and kind of level, but if there's someone who's kind of coming up, maybe as a level 50, try and help them through earlier level stuff.
Yeah, potentially could be very good for sort of the stages 1 through to about 12, 1 through to about 8. I think is probably a good 1 to 10.
Well, the stats start to really ramp up.
That's when accuracy and the modifiers really kick in, and you start getting to like some crazy sort of resistant accuracy numbers. But yeah, someone like Reliquary Tender could be useful in the right setup to kind of keep the debuffs off you if you can't keep your resistance levels high enough. It's the thing, those A1 debuffs are probably the last thing anyone thinks about in this encounter, and actually they're quite impactful.
Can be nasty.
They can be nasty, yeah. So 100% that. I think Jamasa is a good shout for a reviver. I think her kit's a little bit sort of weak for everything else.
Who did you say there, sorry?
Jamasa, the referral epic. Yeah. Barbarian. Obviously, if you have Chronum and you've done your referral accounts or you've got friends, believe it or not, I don't really see how anyone else has. I can find 3 people who want to do it, let alone 6. If you've got Chronum, then obviously these 2 together here will be really great for that HP burn activation.
Do you get to the feeling of they will be insane for that? If you've got the 2, you get the guaranteed decreased speed that cannot be blocked, and you get the revive, which is awesome.
Oh yeah, I forgot her A1 will put decreased speed. Normally I forget about
only
the A1
if he's in the team though.
He's got to be in the team, yeah.
Yeah.
The A2 is actually quite solid for a single target heal.
Yeah.
Because it's a pretty good fill, pretty good heal. You obviously would want to do it on Chronum. The only thing Chronum will struggle with is, unlike Ninja, he doesn't place the burn again. So he will kind of eat the burns, and then you run out of burns unless something, unless he gets another turn to place it. If he keeps activating it, and if you think with Jamasa, it's 5 abilities. So he'll basically go A3, I think it is, in Spider normally gets A3 into A2, but he won't hit, it'll be A3. And then you'll have two other champions, then he'll go, and then Jamasta will do A2, he'll go again. So you could potentially do that A2 twice before he gets another turn. So he might run out of burns, but I think those two together, considering she also does decreased speed, which I didn't really clock. And the fact that she doesn't need accuracy, the boss's resistance, remember, is really high. It's like 565.
And it means you can just build her as an absolute tank, can't you?
Yeah.
And a fast support unit rather than needing all that accuracy. So it does change the kind of priority of build a lot.
And she's got, again, great base stats, like 19k HP, serviceable, 1,100 defense nearly. It's a bit lower than what you would like, but it's serviceable. You can build enough, with decent gear, you can get some decent defensive stats there and just basically run those two together, and Cronin will do a job on it. He's a budget ninja for everyone. Not quite the ninja we all want.
It's such a grind, isn't it? But yeah, and I definitely, if you can get him, for sure. If we can get that pairing, really good combo. I guess let's just finish off by talking about some other good supporting champs that are going to be relevant for this fight. Chris is good for pretty much any late game content. When you get hit, you're going to put on drop defense and drop attack. He's also bringing protection for your team.
For him, is mainly the A1 passive, right? That's the thing. You're getting that decreased defense and decreased attack always going out every attack, and you get that decreased speed as well in the A1. Champions with decreased speed on the A1 are going to be so valuable just because of the passive cleansing debuffs off.
So the only thing with Trisk, I would say, and he's obviously going to be obscene for this, but he doesn't guarantee you a decreased speed, and he brings quite a lot of buffs. So if you do not land that decreased speed, he's going to be throwing the boss's turn meter up a lot, isn't he? He's going to be like, so you definitely need to make sure either you bring someone else in as well, or perhaps you open with the A1 and hope you land it. And
the only good thing is he does extend buffs, and I believe the turn meter increase is only on placing buffs. So you'll reduce that somewhat because obviously if the buff hasn't expired, it can't be reapplied, kind of scenario.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
that does have an impact. But yeah, you are right. Like if you're bringing anything that isn't 50%, it's the same thing in Hydra. If you're not bringing a guaranteed provoke, then you're just running the risk that if you don't land that provoke, it all kind of falls apart. And it'll be the similar thing here. If you don't land the decreased speed, it could all just fall apart. So having champions that can kind of do multiple roles together in a team to back each other up is probably a good way to go.
Okay. Any other support ones for you that you would call out?
Mithrala, like she's a god here. Dark Elf. Need to give you a little lesson on the faction index.
There's too many champions now. I used to just be able to click round, but now I'm like, where's this one?
The good thing about Mithrala, you get both your primary buffs.
Can I just say, does she really look like an elf? Like,
it's a bit questionable. She's more demon spawn. She is more demon spawn. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, sorry, go on. What were you saying?
I actually think she's probably the top 5 poison in the game, if not top 3. I think Nethril is probably the top 1 poisoner. Obviously, Theodore can extend poisons and that, but she just keeps putting poisons out on the A1 all the time. Yeah. You get both primary buffs, increased attack and increased defense, which are massively important. Not so much increased attack, but increased defenses on a 3-turn cooldown. And you get a full cleanse, strengthen, and a shield. Now, she's probably not like my top 5. I wouldn't necessarily go and look at Mithrala as my number 1 choice for this encounter, purely because there's no decreased speed, there's no decreased accuracy. But
good all-rounder, though.
She's got a lot of accuracy built into a kit because of just the way that you build her. You don't need any resistance in that sense because it converts it in the passive. So you just build all accuracy, land your debuffs. Most people will have her in arena at like 600-700 accuracy built already if you're sort of late to high-end arena. And yeah, the Hex debuff is not that impactful because obviously it's not going to do anything here.
There's no other ads. But definitely, like you say, just reapplying those poisons when the boss cleanses, if he does. I found on the test server, this is the one champion that I didn't have to rebuild at all, and I could just beat level 15 and fully resist everything that's coming at me.
Yeah. Because of that passive. The passive is so strong.
The passive is insanely good.
Which would be nice because you can use her in arena, but just throw her in your team kind of scenario.
Yeah.
So I think Mithrala is a great shout out. There's probably a load of different epics that can help support your team. Someone like Scathix is a great option for just like healing, cleansing, keeping you moving. There he is. Yeah, he's got like
drop speed as well.
Obviously, the buff stealing is you turn that off, but you just basically want the healing, the decreased speed. Again, he's not guaranteed, so you've got to keep that in mind. But he's a budget option, pretty good. So yeah, so I think anything like that kind of thing, you're kind of looking for decreased accuracy, decreased speed, decreased attack, decreased defense, poisonous, HP burners, those types of champions. Eros we haven't really talked about Eros. Eros was
Yeah.
someone that people were saying could use solo.
I was just sorry. I was just going to say Vodoff was one I used as well as a great supporting act. Not that he does any of the abilities we want. It's just he's probably the best tank stroke healer in the game for an epic to just come in and do a job, an easy job whilst applying a leech as well. So he was
Vogoth has got Drexar's problem. His decreased attack is tied to provoke, which is a real shame.
Yeah, his abilities don't really kick in, but actually his passives are just so strong anyway that he's just going to be good for your team, I think.
The nice thing about Eros is, I think, if you have enough poisons out, he was undead. If you have enough poisons out on his A2, he can decrease speed.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's something I never see because I'm
really
just
complicated one, isn't he?
Yeah, there's actually not that many poisons that you need to get decreased speed out there.
No,
interesting.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is definitely could be another use for him.
And he's gonna. The nice thing about him is obviously he's got that passive. Whenever a boss uses a poison, he's going to increase his own maximum HP, so he's going to get tankier as the fight goes on, which is what you need in this type of encounter. He's got self shield.
Could he be the just a solo champion?
So that was a thought that came to mind. Could he solo? I think the Iron Brand
might just be too much.
It'll take too long because the poison. Obviously, the boss has a negativity for poison. He's got the spider poison, so you're not going to get like 5%. You'll get like 0.5%. Instead, it's still a good way to go if you stack them up because obviously it's going to take some time, but it won't be as powerful as say the Scarab. But as a secondary poison, he's also got ally protection, strengthen, self shielding, keeps himself alive. He's not a burden to your team, which is obviously something you want to make sure. And then you get that decreased speed up on that A2. If you pair him with Rian, like a weird revive, I've never really used that pairing.
Yeah, I've never seen. I actually spoke to Ash about this the other day. Have you ever tried to run Rian the Conjurer as the reviver alongside these other two champions, Akoff and Eros? And I don't think they really synergize that well in current content. But perhaps this is somewhere where this could work.
I mean, Akoff's got a HP burn, I suppose, and he does have a shield, but I don't think he has anything else. So
yeah,
she's a good buff cleanser. I wouldn't use Rian. I don't think she brings anything to this fight, unfortunately, which kind of then makes the whole pairing not so good.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, certainly I think someone like that, passive poisoner, they're pretty good.
I think one other one I just call out in terms of support champ will be Brogni, just because he's Brogni. Again, he doesn't bring any of the debuffs we want, but he does. I guess a burn could be used just in terms of his shield, his ability to protect your team. Plus, he's got the chance to do damage off of reflecting from his shield as well.
I'm pretty sure that won't proc the passive.
Right, okay. Interesting.
Because counterattack mechanics don't generally trigger counterattack mechanics. You know, if someone counterattacks, you can't counterattack a counterattack, otherwise you end up in
keep kind of scaling between the two.
Exactly. So I'd imagine the reflect could push you over boundaries and avoid the passive kind of proc, which would be good. Obviously, you can proc Giant Slayer back at him. So
cool. Well, I guess, look, guys, we'll probably end it there. We've been talking for ages. If you've got other ideas of champions that you would want to use or you think will be suitable for this fight, please comment down below. And obviously, maybe we'll do a bit of a catch-up again, Saph, in a few weeks' time once we've seen more people get into this content around other ones that perhaps we didn't think about that, just kind of came in. But
absolutely.
Saph, thank you so much for joining us on the channel. Any kind of last words or shout-outs?
Good luck to everyone facing the Iron Twins. It's going to be an interesting challenge. And if I see one person put a screenshot anywhere with a 6-star Perfect Awakened champion, you're dead to me. Not really. I'm only joking. Good luck if you get it. That's insane luck.
Yeah. Awesome. Right. Thanks, Saph. Thanks for watching, everyone. I will catch you later.